always believed them sorry. Well, he was quite a big guy.
The schoolyard, the school bully have inspired countless songs and books and plays over the years. Well, a new play in Perth uses abstract movement and live music to tell the story of a migrant, a girl from Armenia, whose long black hair makes her an instant target for the mean girls. It's a story that's very close to the heart of writer and director Soseh Yekanians, who struggled with her own identity as a young migrant in the 1990s. Her play is called The Special Team Elite. Claire Nichols meets Soseh at rehearsals.
I've been invited to the Spectrum space at the WA Academy of Performing Arts to watch a rehearsal of The Special Team Elite. It's an experimental theatre piece with the action taking place all around me. It uses movement and almost no language to tell the story of an immigrant schoolgirl, Saran, who's bullied by a pack of shiny-haired mean girls. The play is written and directed by PhD candidate Soseh Yekanians, and she has big plans for this project. It started its life as a children's book, and eventually she'd like to develop it into a full-scale theatre in education play. For me, though, there's something very magical about this piece already. The movement and the imagery really capture that awful reality of school-ground bullying. And the whole piece is lifted by the inclusion of live music, which is equally beautiful and haunting. I've just had the pleasure of watching a rehearsal of The Special Team Elite. Can you tell me, what is the story of the show?
The story is about an Armenian girl called Siran who is finding herself in a world where she thinks she doesn't fit into her version of the ideal norm. She's very aware that she looks different. She's got this long black hair and she hates the way she looks because she wants to look like the popular girls that in this play are represented with the wigs. Initially, in my story, I guess the popular girls were always my idea of the stereotypical version of an Australian female. So they were always going to be blonde and tanned and perfect bodies. But I thought about it a lot, and I spoke to Lyndall, my principal supervisor, and she kind of brought to my attention that there might be a danger, especially for a children's book, on making all blondes mean or all blondes popular. And so I thought, oh, well, then how do I do it so that they all look the same, but it's not, that it's about their appearance, but it's not about the colour of their hair? And I thought, well, let's put wigs on them.
So we're seeing girls in rainbow kind of sequin wigs.
Artificial, yeah, very artificial wigs. I wanted them to look the most unhuman out of all of them, and the three other girls, Siran, Soraya and Sinead, to look the most human. I was born in Iran and am Armenian, but I was raised in Australia, so I've always struggled with where I fit in. From the age of 13, I started to become aware that, you know, what is my identity? Where do I belong? And that, I guess, was fueled even more at school, growing up in the 90s, in the early 90s, where I was bullied a lot for my racial appearance. I used to be called a witch and a wog, and grew up, as a result, resenting my ethnicity and trying to run as far away as I could from being an Armenian. I even dyed my hair blonde and wore blue contacts for a while because I really wanted to fit in. And I guess I hated that. And as an actor, that was that kind of resonated even more because my agent kept telling me I'm not Australian enough, or she didn't know what box to file me either. Was I Mediterranean, Middle Eastern, other? And it wasn't until I transitioned into becoming a theatre director and started to really embrace my Armenian heritage, because I was allowed to tell the stories I wanted to tell instead of being ashamed of them, that I really started to come into my own and kind of develop this new sense of identity, realising I didn't have to pick and choose. I could be all three if I wanted to be. I didn't have to just be one. And I guess the reason of writing this book in a way that I did, a children's book, is because I didn't have any books like that growing up. All the books were about princesses and princes and all of that, and I wanted a book where I could open it up and there were characters that looked like me. And I wanted to write something that was representative of Australia today, where we have migrant children and we have multiculturalism in schools and we're not segregated. We very much are conscious of girls with hijabs on, or girls with headscarves, or girls that are a different colour to us, and I just wanted to write that story.
You've got a copy of your book. Take it away.
Okay. In a big city, but in a small town, there lived a young lady whose name was Siran. Siran didn't look like a regular Aussie girl. Her eyes were dark and her hair was black, and while she was beautiful, her mind doubted that. At school, Siran often got teased. There were a group of mean girls that regularly pushed her and called her a witch. Sometimes they wrote unkind notes and stuck them on her back. Her one wish was to look normal and not stand out from the pack. One evening, Siran queried her mum, "Why do I look different and not like the other girls in my class? Why don't I have shiny bright hair and sparkly blue eyes? I hate the way I look, Mama," she wept as tears came pouring down. Siran's mother took her in her arms and gently responded, "You're perfect exactly how you are, my angel, don't be despondent. We look dissimilar because culturally we are. In Armenia, everyone has dark features and is no different to us." Siran smiled and hugged her mum tight as if everything was okay, but deep down inside she desperately wished she could change. The following day at school, an unusual event occurred. The teacher walked in with a strange-looking girl. "This is Soraya," she introduced. "She's from Afghanistan and is new to our school." Soraya was timid and covered from head to toe. You couldn't see her hair or even her shoes at all. All the kids gasped as Soraya stood quiet, and as she gradually made her way through the seats, the whispers turned silent. Soraya saw an empty chair next to Siran's desk. She went to sit, but one of the mean girls quickly stretched out a hand. "This seat is taken, and this one, and that." It wasn't long before Soraya became the target of a horrible new plan.
You've worked on these beautiful words, yet when you've taken this to the stage, you've abandoned all that dialogue and gone for something very different. Why did you make that choice?
Because I knew I wouldn't have the opportunity to do this otherwise. Eventually, my hopes are that I will turn this into a new theatre and education play with words and all. But once the Spectrum space was confirmed, and it's always been an exhibition space, I thought that this was my opportunity to kind of test this story on three levels, to have a book, to do this weird installation piece without words, and then to one day hopefully turn it into a very text-based Thai play. So it was really opportunity, and I wanted to challenge myself as a director. This is completely removed from what I usually do.
What are your hopes for the immigrant girl or boy that sits down to watch this show?
That they realise that their differences are to be celebrated, that the grass isn't always greener on the other side, and that everyone looks different for a reason, because whilst the idea of looking like the person who we think is perfect sounds great in theory, in practice it's boring. I mean, it's fantastic looking different and being an individual.
Yeah, what a terrific story. On RN, Soseh Yekanians, the writer and director of the Special Team Elite. And that play runs at the Western Australian Academy of Performing Arts, WAPA, until tomorrow. And that story came from our terrific new Perth producer, Claire Nichols.